we got to kill that dead air. I got to do some video editing on that thing. And you got to send me the video intro to this show so I can have it too.
Oh,
so I just used my fancy new video intro.
What's up, Artie?
So we're doing okay. We're doing okay. We're doing, tiny incremental improvements. I'm gonna get into the back end of StreamYard and see if I can get it to, or not StreamYard, but Restream, and see if I can get it to unhose my audio, because I notice it's causing audio problems based on Monday's output. So
how do we know how many people are here? I don't see.
You don't, but I do. And I can't see how many people are in StreamYard if I'm not running the show either. There are 11 people watching right now, so I'd like to say welcome to all 11, including Mike Anthony and Ken Kloby.
Hey, what's up?
Let's put the dingus up. There we go.
Ooh.
There we go. Very fancy.
Now you're on top of me now. That's suggestive. Very suggestive.
Yeah, you're making it weird. But otherwise, oh dear. Sometimes the jokes literally do write themselves. So,
oh, look at that. That's cool, man.
Yep. Yeah, that's a nice feature. It's a nice. Like I said, I'm trying to be slightly less spectacularly unprofessional about this. Let's put it that way.
Hola, Trevor. Oh my God,
job of making good content. So welcome everybody to tonight's show. With me is Dancing Dan Pancaldi from No Enemies Here, and we will be talking about block war games. This is a topic that I'm not the world's greatest expert on block war games, but I can talk. When has that ever stopped me from having an opinion? So I guess we should start off with saying, what do we mean by block war games? And I think I'm probably going to find general agreement in saying that just because the game has little wooden pieces does not necessarily make it a block war game. I mean, after all, Risk had wooden pieces for a while. The original version of Risk had little wooden blocks, and the coin games have little wooden blocks, and nobody talks about those in the context of being block war games.
No.
And
I even know that.
The other thing is, like I say, commands and colors. But really, all the commands and colors blocks represent are tokens. They could be counters, as you can see, right? In some of those games, they are, in fact, miniatures. I got to get a date here, so bear with me that I'm trying to pull the date up on a thing I meant to pull the date up on before, and I didn't have time because I was monkeying with the background.
You just threw a wrench in my whatever you threw it in. Command and colors. Well, is it a block game? It's a block game.
I mean, it has blocks, but I don't think it's a block game.
Well,
I don't think it's
hidden unit. You have hidden units, man.
No, you don't. They're all just
in any command and colors.
Not any of the ones I've played.
And how many have you played?
3, I believe.
Come on,
which is like less than half. Okay, so that's fine. But I'm reasonably sure that the samurai game does not have. Now, I mean, you could put ninjas in the samurai game, and I would totally put a house rule for have ninjas in the samurai.
I would ninja too, man.
I don't know that it's that kind of samurai game.
But that's pretty cool.
And no, I don't think so. You put the same stickers on both sides of the block, right? The block is not providing you with any hidden information. So what I think that people normally mean when they say block war games is the block war game idea, by which you have a sticker or label or engraving or whatever it is on one. You have information on one side of the block that faces you, so you can see the information, and you stand the blocks up so that you can see your information on your blocks, but you can't see the opponent's information. And furthermore, that the blocks have different values of some kind on each side, so that you can rotate the blocks to reflect things like replacements or step losses or command expenditures in at least one case that I can think of. Now, this kind of block game, the by far the dominant player in this particular type of game is Columbia Games. The first game that used this mechanic, as far as I know, is Quebec 1759 from 1972. If you want to see info on this game, Gilbert Collins has a video on it. And it's an interesting looking game. If you're interested in, the Canadian part of the French and Indian War, then, it's It's a seminal game. It's still available as far as I know. It was originally published by Gamma 2, which was the predecessor of Columbia Games. That eventually making it weird since 1979.
I look like Jabba the Hutt.
I don't control your, you have the put the camera above you, and so your glorious forehead is better on display. There you go. See, much better. You could always put a couple of those helms on too if you really want to.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I think that the signature mechanic that we mean when we start talking about block war games is not that there's not other things that you could do. And in Nathaniel Robinson's definition, where CNC is a block war game, because it does use blocks after all. Sure. I mean,
what?
He can't hear because he's got the helmet on.
No, you can hear me.
We can't hear you because the hell it's
Sound like that.
Hey, how do we block Trevor Just? Get him out of here. Get out of here.
I haven't blocked him yet because he is an upstanding member of the community. So yeah, but there's like a demonym for these players of these kinds of games. The blockheads or fans of these kinds of games. And I've had a lot of experience with them. But even just from Columbia, and there's other folks doing these kind of games. GMT has a couple of games like this. The Fast Action Battles series uses this mechanic, the hidden stuff mechanic. For that matter, PQ-17 does too. Although PQ-17 has like blocks for certain things and then other types of pieces for other things. So it's a bit more complicated there.
PQ-17, that's the naval game. Is that right?
It is an air and naval game, yeah, about the Arctic convoys. It's a fascinating topic, actually, and I have the game, and it's impossible to solitaire. It's because it's loaded with hidden info. So I've never actually gotten the chance to play it. I would really like to play it at some point. I took a look at it. Somebody posted something about it at some point years ago, and I'm like, ooh, that looks neat. I gotta have that. So, but there's Vento Nuovo who's doing the blocks in the east, blocks in the west. Those games, those use the same block mechanism.
Yes, sir.
And they're a little harder to get. So it's only a flesh wound, David. So, but so I mean that's the basic mechanic, and the reason why a lot of folks find this attractive is the same reason that a lot of people complain about the lack of fog of war in more conventional I don't want to say hex and counter games, but more conventional war games, which, as far as the 70s go, were hex and counter war games by and large. So there have been other mechanisms that deal with hidden information, that bring hidden information and throw a wrench into the fog of war. The obvious example are things like Flat Top, where you actually have plotted movement, so your movement's all hidden and you don't reveal anything, it's like Battleship in that sense, right? You don't know where anything is, you're just kind of fumbling around until you find the enemy, and then you try to put together an attack when you found the enemy, which in the case of Flat Top, it does work well. It's very paperwork intensive. The block mechanism gives you fog of war without necessarily having all that overhead, all that rules and paperwork overhead. The other thing is that there's been a number of different approaches to those block games. Now, I haven't seen the Vento Nuovo games. Sekigahara is another one. I believe in the case of Sekigahara, I think it was the blocks were felt with the stickers that you put on them were felt to be thematically appropriate to the topic. And I think they are. There you go. Kev 41, another one of those. So, and those games are pretty well regarded. They're a little hard to get in the States, to be honest, but
really,
yeah, I've never seen them in a store. You'd have to, I don't know if I really wanted them, could I get them? Yes, I could, but I would have to figure out how to do that. I couldn't just ring up. Well, Noble Knight might have them, actually. Speaking of Noble Knight, Dan has a special surprise for us tonight.
Noble, no, well, Dan, Artie
Well,
and
you
Dan.
set it up. I didn't. I mean, yeah,
I know, but the thing is that you can get it here too. It's actually 10% for now, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Huh?
He's working on it.
I'm working on it. I'm always working on it.
10% off. Thanks.
10% off, and use the code. No, see, that's why.
Right.
When I said to Artie, it's because it's our show, and it's
right.
No Enemies 10. That's the code.
10.
No Enemies 10. Get 10% off.
Right. So that's something. So hopefully somebody can get some use out of that. I
know
you have bought stuff.
You seem to appreciate 10% off.
Well, 10% off is 10% off. I mean, I was looking for copies of Fire in the East on Noble Night earlier today or yesterday or something like that, and that 10% off would save me probably $30. So,
what's Mike Anthony? I think it's No Enemies, no space 10. No Enemies 10.
No, it's just like you see it. It's no space. We think we could.
Like I wanted to do like a No Enemies Artie thing, but Artie just said, shut up and just whatever.
It's whatever. It's fine. I get time for this kind of thing. Time to argue about it. So last thing we need is having arguments.
So you know what? Kilroy was here is saying blocks are the things are about things and things. So Command and Colors, again, can anybody answer if they have any Command and Color games hidden to the opponents, or do we have all stickers?
I am willing to be corrected on this point from in the chat, but as far as I know, there is no block-based hidden information in any of the Commands and Color games. It's all Noble Knight products, not just Wargames.
All Noble. How did you know?
I guessed.
That's a good guess.
Well,
man.
why would they? They're not going to partition stuff out like that. So I wouldn't either. Jeff Beeler mentions Crown of Roses, which is another one actually from GMT, which also uses it's War of the Roses. It's kind of Kingmaker reimagined. I hate that. I hate that statement actually, because it's really very different game from Kingmaker, other than being on the same topic, the War of the Roses. It's less abstract than Kingmaker. And it uses blocks with one side of hidden information. And it's worth your time. I think Crown of Roses got a bit of a fiddly rule book. You got to kind of fight through it, but it's I think worth your time if you're interested in that kind of thing. And it plays up to 4 people.
Okay, so
Fields of Despair is another one Robert Moffat mentions.
Yeah, I think you're right, Artie. And from the comments, none of the Command and Colors.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, if you want to call them block Wargames, okay, but I don't think the fact that they uses blocks is mechanically significant in any way, as we can see, because like some of them have miniatures instead of blocks, and when you take a hit, you take a miniature away, or you take a block away. That's what it does. The blocks or the miniatures or whatever they are represent steps, and you could use anything to represent that. You could use chips, right? In fact, it's not different from Axis and Allies in that respect, because you have your little infantryman, and you have your little stack of tiny poker chips under that represent additional little infantrymen, and you have little infantryman on top of 3 chips, and you take 2 hits and you throw away 2 chips, and then the infantryman tells you that's what that stack is representing. So
Artie, look at what Trevor Just says. Star Wars Queen Gambit, which Hasbro ripped off from the CNC system, has some hidden info.
Star Wars Queen's Gambit was one of the tie-in products for the Phantom Menace, the Star Wars The Phantom Menace. I considered it a laughable joke at the time. I have since been proven wrong, because it is insanely collectible now, and is worth a giant pile of money. That said, it feels like it predates Commands and Colors, but without checking the dates, I'm not going to swear to that. What was our chat will probably know. What was the first Commands and Colors game published?
Battle Lore.
Battle Cry.
Battle Cry, sorry.
So that probably does predate. By a year. Predates the Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit is 2000. Battle Cry is 1999. So that's plausible. Now, I've never played the Queen's Gambit. I will never play the Queen's Gambit. I am not likely to be in the same room as people who are playing the Queen's Gambit. So
$400.
Yeah, it goes for, like I said, it goes for a big pile of money. Apropos of nothing in particular, the Queen's Gambit show on Netflix is very good.
And you can get 10% off at Noble Knight from $400.
Well, if they have it, and they might, they're going to have it as so much as they're as likely to have it as anybody. Let me put it that way.
You know what? Hasbro is huge. Okay, yeah, they got a lot of lawyers. But Borg ain't small potatoes either, man. He's got a lot of stuff happening, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's got to come out with that Commands and Colors War of Jenkins Ear game.
What?
I'm totally joking. There's
a
Commands and Colors game on every topic. I think there should be actually a Commands and Colors game on. I don't know how you would do this. I think it would.
I think you should sue. I think you should sue. Being an American, you could sue.
Well, we're Americans. We can get angry and sue over anything. So, there isn't a naval Commands and Colors game. That might be interesting. Now, does that really fit the model? I'm not sure that it does. But Richard Borg is surely a smarter fellow than myself.
Hey, look, they have the space game, Space Alert, man. So what's the difference?
But you can kind of define the scale however you like in the space game. So you could say this unit is fighters, and it's 4 pieces of fighters, and you take a hit, you remove a fighter. So I think it's easier to deal with that in a science fictional context. If you're trying to do a historical naval game, whether it was Ancients or Age of Sail or whatever, and I'd be interested in something like that. I think I guess I don't have absolutely every Age of Sail game ever produced, but I've got a bunch of them. So
you're a big Age of Sail fan, that era?
Yeah, I am, actually. Thank the Master Commander movie. So, which is
that was a good movie, man. That was a good movie, man. I liked it.
So Jeff Beeler mentions War of 1812. That's one of Columbia's block games as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? So,
Blitzkrieg Montreal.
I don't know I think he means what he did in the game rather than the name of the game. So
that was pretty interesting. Because that's where I'm from. I'm from Montreal.
Yeah, okay, this is the game I was thinking. War of 1812, 1973, Tom Douglas and Lance Gutteridge are the 2 people credited as the designers by BGG. I don't know what that means. I mean, you'd have to look at the game. But I think, far as I know, that thing's still around as well. The other family of block games from Columbia are the front games, the East Front, West Front, Euro Front games. There was a Med Front at one point, but that's kind of been folded into the other ones in the current editions. So I don't think, Jeff, that we can combat infantry. Does that uses blocks? Does it not?
Yeah, no, it's the same thing as blocks, man.
Okay. Now I haven't really taken a look at combat infantry because I have played Pacific Victory actually, and Pacific Victory is actually neat. And that's a block game with hidden stuff, as I recall. It's been a while. And that's the same type of deal, I think. I'm less familiar with that one. I'm a little more familiar, even though I haven't played, Bobby Lee and Sam Grant. And those are the same type of things. But those are really more operational using the Napoleon system. I see you've been in contact with Columbia Games. They are, after all, Canadians. So I assume that they're sending you free product.
Canadian? I didn't know that.
They're Canadians. Their office is in Washington, but they're Canadian.
No, I was in touch with the rep. What's his name? He does the Harn thing. The Harn.
Yes. You're talking about James, I think.
James Isert.
Yeah. Nice guy. He has
he's a nice guy.
I forget what his channel is called. He's got a YouTube channel that
His channel is called Castle Archon.
Castle Archon, yeah, that's him.
Archon, whatever.
So yes,
and there's something about James when he does these things. He posts, and I don't like authority. Okay, I don't like authority, and he says, You have to play this because, and you'd be smart to do this because. So if I don't do it, I'm not smart.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe. Well,
Whatever.
so I mean, he's got a particular style of making videos that he's kind of making pronouncement. I don't even think it's that. I think he's kind of trying to pretend that he is the ancient and wise wizard on top of the mountain, and he is delivering that wisdom to you, the lowly consumer.
That's right. That's right.
So I think that's more what he's trying to do.
No, Kilroy. Yeah, no discount.
So Jeff Beeler mentioned it rolled off the chat ticker, but Jeff Beeler mentioned that Wood Chips and Iron Men might be able to consider a block game because it has hidden information. I don't think we're saying that the block mechanism is a mechanism that as we're defining it here for the purposes of this discussion.
Fog of War.
Yeah, that among other things introduces Fog of War in a fairly organic and easy to handle way. And it also happens to manage step losses as well, but managing step losses is not necessarily a problem for less unconventional war games. I've played Victory as well, and that's a solid game. I felt I had fun with it anyway. I played it years and years and years ago I believe at an Origins.
And they're not difficult games, man. Like a six-page book. You know what I mean?
None of the Columbia games are particularly difficult. The most complicated ones are the East Front, West Front. But even they're not that bad.
Even Trevor Just can get into that.
Oh, dear.
Hammer of the Scots.
So that's the the whole William Wallace, Robert the Bruce thing as a kind of an operational game. And it's got a very good reputation. That Julius Caesar, I think, have very good reputations nowadays.
Isn't it being reprinted? Something is being reprinted.
I'm not aware that they have really had much go out of print, to be honest. I haven't checked their website for block games lately.
And what's their shtick? These guys, they don't advertise, they don't do squat ski, and
it's all organic. It's a miracle that they're still around, actually. For a long time before the board game boom, they were most known for they had been doing the block games for like literally since the early 70s, right? They're like almost as old as SPI if you count Gamma 2.
So
and they're still around.
I don't see them. Well, I don't see them at any cons. The only con
I don't see them in retail stores either because they don't deal through the distribution. Last I heard, which was years ago, they didn't deal at the time through the distribution chain. So if you were a retailer and you wanted to carry Columbia Games product, you had to deal with Columbia Games directly. And almost no game stores are willing to do that on a manufacturer by manufacturer basis. Yeah. They can't because there's too many manufacturers. It's not practical for them to do that unless the store owner happens to be a particularly big fan. So one of the stores that was here in Columbus, Ohio, when I moved here was the Armory or something like that. Not Soldiery. It was like the Armory. And the guy who ran it was a big Harn fan. So he had a bunch of Columbia Games stuff, but he was willing to deal with, hey, I'm going to make a special exception to stock Columbia Games. So their stuff but then right, we had this board game boom, and now I don't know what the situation is in Canada. Dan, you'll have to be our expert.
Jeff Beeler says he's seen Columbia Games in Canada. I've seen him in Montreal in a place. If ever you guys come to Montreal, whoever goes to Montreal, you have to check out Le Valet de Coeur, the Jack of Hearts, but it's Le Valet de Coeur. And they stock Columbia Games. Man, they have a wicked war game section. Wicked.
Columbia used to come to Origins too for many, many years, and they just don't anymore. I think their local guy that they had doing it is maybe, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I guess he has dropped out of the picture for whatever reason. And Columbia might go to Gen Con, but I haven't been to Gen Con since it moved to Milwaukee.
Isn't Harold doing something at Origins or Gen Con?
I think that's Gen Con. That might actually be he might be doing something at Gen Con too. That might be Dice Tower Con instead. I know that somebody's doing a thing with Dice Tower Con. That is going to be like a War Games.
Yeah, it's Harold. Harold,
which is great that is happening. I appreciate that Harold is, and whoever's running it and whoever volunteers for it is willing to sit there and be sneered at by the Dice Tower as War Gamers for 4 days.
I think
in addition to being sneered at online on their videos.
They're going to be sneered anyways. I think War Game Boot Camp is going to be at
I think so, yep.
Yeah, yeah. What was I going? I was going to say something before I was so rudely interrupted. I forgot.
So, yeah, I mean, so the Harn stuff was what got me into Columbia Games in the first place, because when I was brought to my attention, was in the very late 80s or early, I guess maybe even early 90s.
Wow,
and that was way past the heyday, right? And that was well into the period where they were doing a product every 3 or 4 years.
So what's happening with Harn now? Is it James that's trying to revive it?
It's Grant, I think. It's kind of a family business as far as I know. Tom's still around, and Grant's kind of taken a bunch of the lead as far as I could tell. But James is just kind of helping him out as far as I know. And, I've been in touch with James, and that's one reason why you've seen a bunch of Harn content on my channel. But I didn't have the bandwidth to really, and I told him this, I didn't really have the bandwidth to cover the block games, right? Because so much of my time is consumed with everything else, including the Hex Encounter stuff. So I just didn't have space for it, even though I was tempted. I'm glad that the board game bloke was treated well because he has an intimidating British accent. But and I'm of course being a little bit of a smartass, to be fair. Texas Glory, I have no knowledge of that, and that is one that I think is not available anymore. They have another one coming out called Mountain Men, which sounds like a family type of exploration game, which sounds like it might be pretty neat. So the Harn licensing is the wrong word. So not that this is what our show is about. It was turned into the Columbia Games Hour, but that's fine. So Robin Crosby was the original creator of Harn, and he had a falling out, which I know some of the reasons for, but I don't know the whole story, so I'm not going to repeat what I do know because it might be incomplete. Had a falling out with Columbia Games over the direction that they were going with the product. And neither party either had the resources to sue or really wanted to generate the acrimony to sue. So what we have had is a situation in which there is no licensing. We have two different groups of people claiming ownership over Harn and producing material for Harn World. Columbia Games has been continuing to produce, and they don't have a huge output, but they do it, several small pieces a year. And that's a good point. Robert Moffat mentions Worthington, which does have a number of block games in their repertoire as well. And I think that Crusader Kingdoms is one of those too, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. So the other company in question is Celestia Publications. That was in Robin Crosby's group. Of course, Crosby has tragically early passed away. And they have continued to do stuff strictly in PDF. You can still buy print copies of stuff from Columbia. Columbia has been concentrating on the island of Harn itself, and maybe they've done some stuff in Ivinia as well. Whereas Celestia's stuff has been off the island for the most part, again, off the island of Harn on the big continent that's across the ocean from Harn. So that's the dope on that whole situation. And there is a situation of detente that persists even now. And for fans of the setting like me, that's a good situation to have because it's more product. So
can I correct Carl here? He said it was autocorrect. Now, Carl of Wargame Bootcamp. Listen to it. It's not Vento Nuevo.
Is it you have Bento Nuevo comes in a little box
Spanish.
with some spam and little rice rolls.
Forget Spanish. It's Vento Nuovo. O-U, not huevo.
Oh. They are Italian as far as I know.
It's Italian, right? For God's sakes. It ain't Spanish, Carl.
Okay. Carl. So Doug says that everybody has accents. Well, everybody has accents. That's the point.
No, he's got an accent. What's the matter with that?
To Americans, the British accent can sound very high class and intellectual. Columbia Games continues to do Kickstarters. They may even have a Kickstarter going right now. But if there is, it might be a Harn Kickstarter.
No, something's up with I don't know if it's Grant or Caesar or something. I think Caesar's coming out again.
Oh, so they did a Kickstarter for that, some kind of deluxe Caesar thing. That was, I think last year. And that probably is pretty close to Vento Nuevo. Nuevo, right. Sorry. So what I see, they did I think it was Rommel in the Desert. Ooh,
Rommel.
I forgot about this. They have video game versions of a bunch of the Columbia block games that you can get on Steam now too, by the way. So if you're into that kind of thing, check those out. And as far as I'm aware, I'm going to have to look this up because I know Julius Caesar is one of them, and it is called Blocks Julius Caesar.
Yes.
And it is $24.99 on Steam, at least at the regular price. I don't know if it goes on sale.
The digital one.
Yes, the digital one, and you can get it on Steam. And they have, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at.
Trevor Napoleon. Which Napoleon from Columbia Games?
He's talking about the classic Napoleon, which was one of the early either Gamma 2 or Columbia releases, and that eventually landed at Avalon Hill. And then when Avalon Hill went away, or maybe before, Columbia has redone their own version of it.
These are great. These are great starter war games, man.
Oh, they absolutely are.
Fantastic.
And they have hexes and everything. The Bobby Lee and Sam Grant, I think, don't, but most of the other ones do. What
came out first, the Bobby Lee or the Sam Grant?
I think Bobby Lee. I think. I'm not checking the data on that.
That says a lot.
Yeah, so the two that they have are Julius Caesar and Richard III, both of which have good, again, as board games, have good reputations. So if you're into that, you can get it for basically half price as a digital copy, and I think have a computer to play you against. So, Strike of the Eagle from Academy Games. I'm not familiar enough with that. That's a block game then?
I thought it was a chit game.
I thought it was too, but that's just because I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen it on a shelf, but it's the 1920 Russo-Polish War, as I recall, and that is not a topic I'm interested in to the extent of buying like a block game on the subject. So,
well, it's cool, man. I mean, I like it. I like it.
Well, I mean, so if you get something like Red Star, White Star, which is an old GDW game on the topic, that might be interesting. And that was redone recently, recently as in like 3 or 4 years ago, I think, by Compass. So, speaking of which, news out of Consim World Expo, which is happening right now in the sunny, blisteringly hot, you will explode on the street, Tempe, Arizona. A little smaller than usual, as you'd expect for this year. But Stuka Joe's down there. We've seen a bunch of video out of it. One of the things in development, how far along it is, hard to say. The map looks pretty early, is a new version of Hell's Highway, John Butterfield classic from Victory Games. At this point, it does indeed feel like every significant title from Victory Games is coming back.
From Compass Games?
In some form, right? This is coming from New England Simulations, bizarrely enough.
From New Hampshire?
New England. I don't know where in New England they are, but they're in New England. And I know they showed up at Compass Expo.
Well, that's cool. And you just made me think of something.
DCB is right. I don't claim to make any sense. What I'm saying is I would buy Red Star, White Star, or obtain Red Star, White Star, but I'm not necessarily interested in Strike of the Eagle. That is what I am saying.
I just thought about something, and correct me if I'm stupid, but you guys beat the British in 1776, so why did you keep all the English names like New Hampshire?
You'll have to talk to the people up there. Ohio is a Native American.
What's the matter with you guys?
I had nothing to say about that. And my relatives had not yet gotten off the boat from Sicily, so I wouldn't know.
You're Sicilian?
I'm about half Sicilian, yeah.
Wow, you're not even
Sicilian and Calabrian, I suppose.
Holy cow, that's a hell of a mix.
Oh, sure as hell is. That's why I'm crazy. So David Imperato mentions GMT's engulfed games. That's a good call too. The Europe engulfed and Asia engulfed. I would actually really kind of like to see those games brought back, to be honest. Those games have a good following. They're very well regarded. They have been out of print for quite a while. And I wonder why there's been like no noise whatsoever about reprinting them. So here in Ohio, we do have a place in Ohio called that, A. Davis, but it's not pronounced Berlin. It's pronounced Berlin. I'm not kidding. So not joking at all.
You know, I'm telling you, Quebec is actually removing all the street signs, anything that's in English, like Dorchester or McGill, and they're replacing it with like Levesque or Armand.
Well, we got all kind of stuff down here named after Lafayette, right? So
That's what I mean in Ohio.
Yeah, some in Ohio too. There's the Lafayette Park around here, for example.
Oh, that's
Lafayette
cool.
was a big deal for a long time. So anyway, block games.
Yeah, I like block games. Not that I've ever played any block games, but I like them.
Well, the more popular Columbia ones I'm going to name just because they're the more popular ones, not because they're necessarily the best ones. Like Richard III and Hammer of the Scots and Julius Caesar. Those are really well regarded. Julius Caesar is a really easy game to teach people wargaming on, and it is a hex-based game, as I think it is anyway.
And how long are these games already?
Oh, you could play them in a sitting.
What
Those
city?
games now, like Julius Caesar is point to point. Like 3 or 4 hours, something like that. That sounds about right. Like the East Front, West Front, those are a little more of a project. So, and the fast action battles I have actually already mentioned. The fast action battles Sicily and fast action battles Ardennes, I think, are the two that are out. Those are also block games on this model. And I had the Sicily game and I got rid of it because I felt like I have 14 games about the invasion of Sicily in 1943. This might be too much. So I did get rid of that one and I kept almost all of the other ones.
Matt Taylor, what is this, comedy night?
He's the same old joke.
What free white flag?
Galan 73, yeah, the fast action battles. I see autocorrect is getting Carl again. So I'm going to agree with Jeff on this. I think, Dan, as a proud Canadian, you should be looking into Quebec 1759 and War of 1812. There you go. Is that a block game too?
No, it's one of those block games, but it's like a coin block game. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, tiny blocks, tiny blocks, like those, whatever that series is called from Academy with 1775 Rebellion, and there's the War of 1812 one. Yeah, there you go, the little cubes. That's the same type of thing. Not really the block game mechanic, even though it uses blocks. Well, there's a Operation Crusader fast action battles that's been on P500 for quite a while as well.
Well,
so if you're a fan of that series, check that. And you're interested in the War in the Desert, go ahead and check that out. I may be giving you detailed after action reports on the War in the Desert pretty soon if our next game is what I think it's going to be. So. Kilroy, we are late to the party on that. That was the first thing I mentioned. This whole phenomenon starts with Quebec 1759 in 1972 from Gamma 2 and Tom Douglas and I think a couple of co-designers.
He said Stratego. Stratego would be considered a block game or a plastic game, whatever you want to call it.
I think there's something to that because there's hidden information there too.
That's right.
So I'm going to say, Tom, next time I run into Tom, you stole the idea from Stratego. And he'll probably pick me up by the neck and throw me around like a rag doll because he's 7 feet tall and looks like Sasquatch. So.
Pub games, command post, but they're not block.
Oh, somebody mentioned table battles too. I wouldn't call that a block game. That's the same type of things in Commands and Colors. You're basically using the blocks and their sticks in the case of table battles to count steps. Yep, there you go. A Holland Spiel classic.
You know, that's actually fun, that game. I actually beat Cattle Paradis in that game. All right?
Oh, Table Battles?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be great. I have it. I've never had a chance to play it.
You know, it's fun. It's a fun, stupid game. Ha, 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 ha. You know, I like it.
At some point, I'll go to a convention again, haha, and maybe I'll bring it with me as a little side thing to play.
Did you get Dinosaur Table Battles?
I did not get Dinosaur Table Battles. No, I'm holding out for Amabel to do Dinosaur Case Blue. That I will buy.
Seriously?
Oh, I keep telling her. Yes, I will totally buy that. I will feature that heavily on the channel. We do Dinosaur Case Blue. So I'll be happy to do that. So and the pub battles, as A. Davis, I think, is alluding to, the pub battle series is another one of those things that uses blocks, but isn't really using the blocks in the sense of providing hidden movement. The blocks are just representing a position in the case of pub battles, I think. Neat games, though.
I have two of those games. I have Brandywine and I have the Vlad Dracula one.
There's a Dracula one?
Oh, yeah. I can't get it right now because I'm too short and I got to do stuff.
I might need to investigate that. That sounds like it might be neat.
No, it's the Ottomans. The Ottomans against the whatever Dracula was. I think he was Catholic.
Vlad Tepish?
Yeah.
Maybe Catholic, maybe Orthodox. I have no idea.
And you impale. You got to impale I swear to God, you impale the enemy, and they get the Ottomans get all freaked out, and again they go to your side because they don't want to get impaled.
Okay. I'm looking it up. Command Post Games pub battles. Yeah, I don't think. I'm not seeing anything about these.
No,
I actually find.
You gotta see the Dracula one. You gotta say it. I can't even see it.
I gotta figure out what the hell it's called.
Bloody hell! I played it when I worked at the Psychiatric Institute with the guys. It was a bit weird.
Did you dress up as Dracula too?
No, but when we started impaling, it was oof. They had vision.
Maybe that one's not from Command Post Games.
No, it's from Command Post Games.
It is from Command Post Games?
Yeah. How many games they have? 4?
Oh, about 15, 16, 17, actually. Something like that.
There's one that's really red. It's red. It's all red.
There's red on all of them. I mean, there's British people in most of them. So there has to be red pieces.
Ah, Christ. I can't get it.
Apparently, it's locked up in the vault.
No, I got the general magazines in front of it, and then I'd have to move the mic, and it's going to make noise like this. And
well, you just made that noise, so what's the difference? I'm just playing. So, Carl mentions PQ-17. Yeah, I really do want to play that at some point.
Transylvania
65000.
Is that a toy you got when you were young?
I'm dating myself with that ridiculous reference. It was a really unfunny comedy movie from the 80s, I think. El Grande uses blocks for unit and combat results and has hidden information about blocks as well. He wouldn't call it a block game, says Doug Sunseth. Not familiar with that at all. That sounds like a Euro. Anyone played a block game? Jeff Beeler asks about a block game called Von Manstein's Triumph. I did not know that was a block game. Publisher Bellica 3rd Generation. Boy.
I got a Bellica game, but it's the Commander series.
Von Manstein's Triumph. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, Bellica 3rd Generation.
Yeah, from Spain.
And it's the Siege of Sevastopol. Okay, that's interesting. That doesn't look like a block game. It looks like it comes with little miniatures. But maybe there's just no pictures of the pieces here. I don't know. There's very little information about this on Board Game Geek. So there are games that are Euros, by the way, that I do like, by the way. There's not a lot, admittedly. Tony's Board Life, thanks for stopping by.
Hey, Tony. I once asked Dean Essig if he ever played a Euro game, and he said he saw one from about 3 feet away.
Right, in a different room than he was in.
It's like, what?
Probably. Now, Napoleon's Triumph, I don't think that really is a block game in the same sense, because it's, unless there's hidden info, And then okay. But as far as I knew, Napoleon's Triumph, you're just using the pieces to mark the position. And they're the little stick type pieces that you would use in something like a Kriegspiel, which lends it a very neat feel.
I gotta get the game.
Dracula Forest of the Impaled.
Is that what it is? Jesus, I'm gonna wipe out.
Yeah, apparently so. Introductory command post games. Apparently, it's not available anymore. As far as I could tell.
Wow, and I got the canvas map and everything, man.
Boy, this looks fancy as hell too, man.
Oh, it's fancy, man. I'll sell it to you for $1,000.
No, you won't. For $1,000, I could. In fact, from my understanding, based on my perusal of eBay, is that copies of War of the Ring are now selling for $14,000. So I will sell anybody my copy of War of the Ring for the discount price of $10,000, and then I'll go buy a complete set of everything I wanted and a car.
Which one are you talking about? The Avalon Hill one?
The SPI one. Somebody was selling it on eBay for $14,000.
Seriously?
I assume it's some kind of money laundering scheme. So Rich McKee mentions Tecmo, which is something that I don't think I've talked much about. Because there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say. I mean, I don't even know where to start. At some point, I will have a video about Tecmo. Depends who you talk to. If you ask Ken St. Andre, he'll get very angry for suggesting that his Tunnels and Trolls was, in fact, the third role-playing game ever released. The second role-playing game ever released was Empire of the Petal Throne, which is Tecmo.
There's a reason why the game is $14,000 because it's signed by Sauron, Mike Anthony.
Yeah, apparently that was the joke. Actually, it was autographed by Richard Berg and Sauron. So, it is a Richard Berg design, actually. I have one that's in fairly decent shape too. I mean, it's not even crap. It's a nice shape. It's actually an interesting game too. So Trevor is obviously saving that for his retirement.
Seriously, Trevor, why would you have 4 copies of it? Huh?
Well, there are at least 3 different versions of it from SPI. So there's 2 different boxes. Then there's a flat pack, and then there's the Games of Middle-earth, which has 2 other related but much smaller games in it called Gondor and Sauron. In my opinion, neither Gondor nor Sauron is particularly interesting, but if you're really into Art of Siege, maybe you think more of it than I do. So, but War of the Ring is actually a fairly interesting game. I think it's a neat game.
So what about the one that Knizia did there? The War of the Rings came in a wooden box with painted miniatures.
I do not believe that's a Rainer Knizia design. You're talking about the currently available thing called War of the Ring. I played the previous edition. I don't know if it's different from the current edition. It's a very good game, actually. I liked it a lot. So I don't own it. I probably ought to, but it's also expensive. So,
but yeah, it's a couple of grand.
Well, the one in the giant coffin-sized boxes, yeah, but
yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, and that's not a Knizia game. I beg to differ, Artie.
I don't think so. I mean, I could be. He did do a Tolkien game, but I thought it was one of the smaller card game type things.
He does nothing.
Robert D. Meglio or Melio, Marco Maggi, Francesco Nepitello.
Very good.
The credited designers. That sounds like a bunch of fine Italian gentlemen.
You're damn right.
So, and that's from Ares Games, who has shown up at Origins in the past, and who knows, they might even be there this year. Just looking because I ought to own that. I'm a huge Tolkien geek. There's a new Tolkien book coming called The Nature of Middle-earth, and it's Tolkien's last writings about Middle-earth on a variety of little fiddly bits. I ordered it as soon as I saw that it was happening.
Christopher Tolkien.
No, Christopher's dead now too. This is edited by somebody else. He just passed like last year.
Yeah, I know. And someone's mentioning the Sekigahara.
Trevor just says, yes, let's have the non-Italian guy pronounce the Italian names. That makes tons of sense. Lord of the Rings Confrontation. Yeah, that I don't have anything bad to say about that. I don't have anything to say about it at all, actually. The War of the Ring that I played, which now sounds like it's actually a different game, was the FFG one. So,
and how is that game?
I thought it was great, personally.
How are the components? Is it the crappy components?
I didn't think so. I mean, the standard of components has gone up since that thing came out. It's the same 3 designers, so now that I know that, I think it's probably in fact the same game. I mean, I considered it to be big and fancy at the time. Let me put it that way. And as far as I know, it's still available. It's got a very good reputation if you're into that kind of thing. It's the kind of game that non-wargamers call a war game, and that most wargamers would probably break down and call a war game too. Actually, it's plastic pieces, but it plays like a conventional board war game.
But hold on a second. What's the token, right?
The Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, thank you. That's war 100%.
Well, you don't get to see that much of the war throughout. I mean, if you look at what percentage of the book is concerned with battles, like big battles, there's Helm's Deep in the Pelennor Fields and the Battle of the Moranon, which is the before the Black Gate. That's pretty much it, actually.
In the Lord of the Rings. But if you go back to the Silmarillion, Morgoth made a lot of wars, my friend.
Nope. Yeah, but that's also not necessarily there's not that much text is consumed with the battles. Now, not that you can't turn that into a war game. I think there's ample evidence that you can. Because it's not just, the thing from FFG and Ares Games, right? Which is the thing that's currently available. It's the thing that SPI did. It's also Iron Crown did like at least 2 very wargamey Tolkien board games.
How did they get the license?
Because at the time, getting a big license wasn't that big of a deal, and it wasn't as big a property as it was. They lost it right around the time the movies were in production.
Well, I mean, they kept it close to their chest, and I'm sure they sold it for quite a bit of money.
Another thing is that the license that they had never included anything other than The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
They did not have a license on any of the other materials because Tolkien Enterprises, or Tolkien Properties, or whatever it was at the time, the Saul Zaentz entity, did not have the rights from the Tolkien estate to anything but The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Iron Crown stepped all over that. They took all kinds of stuff from the Silmarillion, Lost Tales, all that stuff. They worked it all in. It was great material. Maybe the system was not right for the Lord of the Rings. Boy, we've drifted off the block war game topic.
No way.
But it happens, especially in the last 10 minutes. But they brought all kinds of stuff in. I mean, from other books. So they were. It was very easy to get the license from them when wasn't the estate. It was the Saul Zaentz people wanted the rights back so that they could sell them to somebody else for a lot more money. So that's what killed Iron Crown. By the way.
Amazon is doing Silmarillion, eh?
I'm not really clear on what Amazon is doing. So we know essentially 2 things about that series. Some of the cast members. We don't know any of who they're playing. We know that it's going to be set during the Second Age, and they have released. It's coming out next year. And they have released a total of 1 production still, which is not a scene from the Second Age. It is a scene from the First Age, because that shot and we assume it to be a flashback or, the prologue or something like that. I don't know. But boy, it's a cool shot because
Numenor.
The 2 trees of that. That's not Numenor. That's Valinor. That's the 2 trees of Valinor in the background.
First Age. Yeah, Telperion. What's the other tree? Telperion and Laurelin.
What was the white tree of Numenor? What was its name?
You got me.
We should be having a trivia giveaway for this, although that's not the audience that we have. The white tree of Numenor was Nimloth the Fair, which was born from one of the fruits of Telperion. And then the white tree of Gondor is a seedling of Nimloth.
So what did Ungoliant suck in? Was it that tree?
So it was the 2 big trees, Laurelin and
Okay.
So John Longsword says Francine. which is great. We could have a Tolkien night. That would be
Yeah, we
perfectly
could.
acceptable
We
to me.
could.
Well, let me get the new book and read that first. I actually bought another book called I forget what it's called, Art of Reconstructed, the Textual History of the Lord of the Rings, which goes into a lot of the different iterations of the stories that Christopher Tolkien used to put the histories of Middle-earth together, and the Silmarillion. I think the Silmarillion more, but and it's fascinating reading too. Very technical.
You know, Christopher Tolkien, that was a job and a half what he did with that whole Lord of the Rings thing, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Taking his old man's writing and trying to put it together. I mean, for God's sake, man.
Absolutely. And he kept books coming out that said J.R.R. Tolkien in big letters on them, right? So, and that was, you know, and how many of those? I believe I have all of them now, actually. I have all of the histories. I have all the histories. I have the ones he's done afterwards on Beren and Luthien and Turin Turambar, and the Fall of Gondolin. And I mean, there is just such an enormous amount of material.
You got the history of Middle Earth from like
the 12-volume set. Yes,
no way.
Yes, I have those. Some of them were bought relatively recently, and some of them were bought back in the day, so they're in a variety of different formats.
Oh, okay.
There were 12 volumes.
Not the same volumes, the same publisher, hardcover, blah 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 blah.
Most of mine are hardcover. I think 4 of them are soft covers.
You know, one of my friends had the first British printing of The Hobbit. He sold it for 20 grand.
Oh, I find that highly believable.
Of course, it's believable. He's my friend. Why would he lie to me?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I believe that that's worth a bunch of money. The first edition of Dune was printed by Chilton's, the same people that do the How to Repair Your Car manuals.
No.
And it's worth a bundle as well.
Oh, man. I can't wait for that.
The trick is that there's a science fiction book club edition that looks identical. If you don't know what you're looking for, that is far more common. So people think they have first printings of Dune, and it's in fact the science fiction book club version. So the old chestnut says you can read The Hobbit quicker than it takes to watch the movies. That's absolutely true. That's true of it took me about as much time to read the first Harry Potter book as it took to watch the first Harry Potter movie. About 3 hours. I
cried when Thorin Oakenshield died. I actually cried.
I didn't watch the third movie because the second movie was an embarrassment.
No, when I read the book.
Oh, that's different. Okay. Yeah. I read The Hobbit as a kid, and then I read the Lord of the Rings as a teenager. And I read them at a very tough time too. And I would say they helped me get through that tough time.
Jesus, Hardy, have you ever had any good times?
Oh, occasionally. Today's doing pretty good, for example. So, although we had bad home improvement news today.
Sorry, spoilers.
So that's true. You've ruined this 100-year-old book, Dan. It's 101 years old today.
I've ruined nothing. I've ruined nothing.
So you think about how old that is. I think 1920 was when it came out, right? Man, that's 100 years ago now. Sister-in-law, John Longshore's sister-in-law has the first edition of Betty Crocker cookbook. So there are some like recipes from the like 40s and 50s, I think more 50s, that are like legitimately horrifying, like tuna cheesecake and stuff. Like, what? Who would eat this? I do not understand. The Lord of the Rings extended versions are worth watching. There are some irritating things that are included there, like fart jokes that I think do not have a place. But generally speaking, the extended versions are worth your time.
The extended version, do they have the appendices at the end of the Lord of the Rings?
Oh, no. No, they just include a few things that got left out. So, for example, in the first one, the scene that stands out to me in the first one that they put back in was
Tom Bombadil.
Gift giving. No, at no point did Tom Bombadil was that in the script or got filmed or anything like that. I've got the perfect actor, maybe too old now, but I've got the perfect actor to play Tom Bombadil, by the way. Brian Blessed. There's your Tom Bombadil. the gift giving in Lothlorien, where Galadriel gives the gifts to each of the
right.
the fellowship. That was a neat scene that was not in the theatrical release. That's the only scene, but then they downplay the use of the file later on, which is weird. In the third movie, right? So the third one was the one I liked the least of the first trilogy. The Hobbit movies are the first Hobbit movies. The first Hobbit movie has quite a few good things in it.
What happened to that movie, man?
I don't know. There's that like first 45 minutes of that movie is magical, absolutely wonderful. Most of the rest of the movie is quite good. There's some stupid stuff in it, and I don't like the treatment of Radagast. He's too goofy. With the whole thing is super goofy. All the material, the extra material that they put in is like real material, but it's like it feels really slapdash and pasted in because it was supposed to be two movies, and the studio came in at the last minute and said no, it's going to be 3 movies.
I didn't like that at all when it was 3 movies. It should have been one movie 5 hours long. That's it.
There are fan cuts of it that excise all of the White Council stuff that make it. They're not perfect cuts because fans can only do so much with the material that they have, but it's credible. I watched one of them and it's pretty credible, and that's the only version of the third one that I've seen. So
Artie,
Julio Lopez knows exactly who I'm talking about.
Artie, we're going over the time. Who's going to pay me for the overtime now? Who's going to pay me for the overtime?
No, maybe Noble Knight will give you some slap back because they are giving us a code. You can put this code No Enemies 10 into your Noble Knight order and get 10% off Noble Knight. So thank you very much, Noble Knight Games, a fabulous place to find used and out of print games of all kinds. No, they did not give me a script. I'm making that up off the cuff. So, but thank you, Noble Knight Games. So thank you, the audience, for tuning in for us tonight. Dan, do you have any videos that you would like to pimp before we go?
I'm interviewing Ben Hull Sunday.
There you go. Ask him where my Musket and Pike dual pack is.
Yeah, isn't that a can of worms?
I don't know. Is it? It's his game.
Yeah.
I have it ordered from GMT and have been eagerly awaiting it for a while.
What was the game that made the sword? One by the sword that made the...
that might be his too, but I'm most interested. I think the Musket and Pike games are his.
Yeah. And so, I whatever. I'm interviewing him Sunday at 6:00.
Cool. And if I have the ability to get the video editing done, I will have an unboxing video tomorrow at 10 a.m. So tune in for that. So, and then we'll of course be back on the Monday stream, which may not be on Facebook and Twitch. Just so you know, it may only be on YouTube. We'll see what we can get done.
Are you selling any more games?
I will, but there's other stuff I got to get done before I can make that happen.
Okay.
So it could happen next week, but I wouldn't count on it.
And and I have to. I'm the CSR awards. I'm putting them together. I have all the nominees and I have all the winners in my head. I have
all the nominees haven't been announced yet, have they? Because they're giving us piecemeal once a week updates on who's nominated.
Well, because I'm a special guy, I got them all. So I got to make the thing, and I think.
So do they know who? Do you know who the winners are already?
Yeah, I know who the winners are.
Next week's show, please tune in, and we'll talk about the Charles S. Roberts Awards.
So the Charles S. Roberts, and I'm going to speak to Tim, the president of this. I'm going to do it for the 1st of November, Remembrance Day. No.
Okay.
Is the 1st of November remember? No, the 11th is Remembrance Day, right?
That's a Canadian thing, is it not?
Hey, look, I have a headache.
I mean, I don't know anything about Canadian holidays. I know your Thanksgiving is on a different day than ours is. So,
yeah.
Otherwise. All right, folks. So thanks for stopping by. We will complain about things past and future next week. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Where's the button? The button's in a different place.